So mindfulness or meditation, whatever you want to talk about it, influences two stress pathways in the brain. One alters our brain structure, right? And activity in regions that are regulating attention and emotion. So we're able to have attention and emotion, those are the two pathways, intercepted and adjusted. Literally, structure and function in the brain changes when we breathe, when we think, right? This meditation and breathing in particular, right? It's regulating our nervous system.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, always here with you every week, and a very warm welcome to all of our new listeners and our loyal crew. I love having you all here. And joining me today are two friends. One is a returning voice for you. William, welcome back.
Hi, great to be here, Jen.
Absolutely. And a new voice is Sue. Sue, welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So I'm honored that you're both here for this conversation. I honestly couldn't imagine having this conversation without you guys. So let's fill everybody in. The three of us, along with our other buddy, Michael, have been meditating together for, what is it, almost 3 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
It is.
Right? And together we've been trained to lead and coach people through meditation as well. So you guys might remember we did an episode in the fall of 2019 called Slow Down. Yeah, right. And that was a conversation with Nandar Matari, who is our meditation coach and trainer. And that was really at the beginning of my working with her. And then the three of us and, our whole crew, fast forward, here we are. And so I wanted to take today, first of all, April is Stress Awareness Month. And, I love a good tie-in. And it's really interesting. So I started digging into some of the research. Meditation and what it does is so profound for just our health in general, but also for stress, that I wanted to have this conversation. And because I feel like before I started meditating, I had a very different perception of what it was then. And you're both nodding, so that makes me feel better.
We're nodding.
Right.
We're nodding. Yes.
Right. So I wanted to have that conversation so that we can bring people into the fold, because I think it can feel a little intimidating, or that everybody meditating is like sitting and oming or something, What do you guys think? Sound good?
Yeah,
That sounds
absolutely.
amazing.
Yep.
Jen, it's so funny because we were nodding, and yes, we're doing a podcast, so noted. But like the image popped into my head as soon as you said, what do we think meditation was like? I pictured
So you want me to share my
someone-
thoughts on what it was from the beginning?
Yeah. Well, the image that popped into my head was like someone sitting on the edge of the cliff and the sun's coming up and they're in lotus position. And it's like, okay, it can be that, but it doesn't have to be that, right?
Exactly. So Sue, I do want to hear what you thought it was really quick though, because I know us, we're going to get into it and then I'm going to forget. So let me tell our members what they're getting this week. So members, your recipe is for a tuna niçoise salad. I like this one for a couple reasons. First of all, it shows you how to make tuna steaks at home, which is really super simple, but I think people get intimidated by it. It's seasonal, green beans. May brings peak season for string beans. And I also feel like it's a perfect one-plate meal this time of year. It's like delicious and satisfying. Lunch or dinner, love this one. And the homemade salad dressing that's part of the recipe is absolutely delicious. Make extra to keep in your fridge. And this ties in with our nutrition nugget for this week. So if you want the tuna niçoise salad recipe delivered to your inbox, be sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. For $10 a month, you get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It's really a total deal. When you take advantage of the full offerings, you are saving far more than that $10 cost. And I say it every time, this is a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, being a member supports this podcast and this community so that we can continue to do this with you every week. So remember, all you have to do is go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. You could do it now if you want. We'll give you a second. Hopefully you're not driving. Don't do it if you're driving. There's also a link in the show notes to make it easy. Once you're there, you'll click support now, type your email and payment info, or use Apple Pay, then it's faster. Click subscribe, and you're all set. You'll get this week's recipe for the tuna niçoise salad. Okay, meditation. And I, like you, William, was like, okay, somebody's sitting in lotus position, like their fingers in whatever that formation is. That reminds me of what's his face from Lion King. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. I don't know his name either, but yes, keep going.
Sue, what did you think of meditation?
So I had started years ago and I was trained to just be silent. I had a mantra, and then just no focus. The thoughts would come and go. But I remember when I first started, I was told, just start with 2 minutes because I'm a thinker, whether I want to be or not at times. And so it was just when the thoughts come and go, I sat for 2 minutes. And that's, it was okay to start then, right? It wasn't, I have to sit here quiet for 20 minutes and no matter what happens, you just learn to build it up. So I think when you go in with the sense of whatever happens is okay, and you don't judge it and you just let it happen, you're more open to let it flow and then naturally and comfortably become part of yourself.
Yeah. I love what you were saying about how, we just have to kind of let it go and let it be whatever it's going to be. But I think that's also even part of it. I thought meditation was very much about controlling the mind and controlling the thoughts before I really learned. Right. And the idea of just let it be also seemed like I don't even understand. How can both things, be true? So I started to dig into in preparation to have this conversation. I was like, well, what is the definition of meditation, right? So, of course, there isn't a single definition in the world about what meditation actually is. A lot of times people talk about it more in terms of mindfulness, right? Just sort of having focus or being intentional. But I think I found one definition that sort of sums things up. And it says, a mind and body practice focused on interactions between the brain, mind, body, and behavior. And it can contain a few key elements. So quiet, little distractions, a comfortable posture, focus of attention, and an open attitude. And I thought that was really interesting that they added the attitude thing, because I do think whatever you're showing up with, if you're sort of, rolling your eyes at even trying it, then it's going to impact, I think, what happens.
You know what else I love about that definition? Comfortable position. Because I have to tell you, when I started meditating, I was doing my best to sit up straight, sometimes in a lotus position, again, because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. I would get uncomfortable. Over time, and actually through understanding it a little bit more, I realized you can be and however you want to be. And if you have an itch during meditation, you can scratch it. And there's not a right way or a wrong way. And it's such a basic part of it. But I feel like that there's the perception that you have to be in this stoic position and not move. And if you're not doing it that way and you break the pose or you feel like laying down or whatever, you're doing it wrong. And there's no wrong way to do it.
Absolutely. For a while, I was meditating laying down because it was just comfortable. And it was sort of, Pavlovian of lay down and relax versus sitting up.
Yeah, I found that I would fall asleep. So everybody's different. I got so comfortable, then I was gone. So, but you can still get very comfortable sitting up and you just find your own space. But I agree with you, William. It doesn't have to be folded and uncomfortable, because then your thoughts go different places and then it distracts.
Yeah. And similar to that, you can sit a whole bunch of different ways. There's also a lot of different types of meditation. A lot of times people think of guided meditation or silence, right? And then even within that, if you search the interwebs, there are a ton of different lists that are giving you different types of meditations. But, like we said, there's the mindfulness, there's spiritual meditation. So there are pieces that get maybe more to the spiritual, for some people, religious side. there's focus, right? Where we're just directing our focus, our attention. Mantra. So you mentioned that you had started with a mantra, progressive relaxation where you're sort of going through the body, and visualization. And frankly, also all these could be combined, right, into whatever, you want to experiment with or play with. But I'm actually really curious because, Sue, my dad took my sister and I to learn transcendental meditation when I think I was like 5 or 6. And they gave us a mantra. And I was like, I don't get it. Granted, I was 5 or 6, but like, I still don't totally, like, when you're meditating with a mantra, are you repeating the mantra over and over to yourself? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
like?
So that's exactly what you're trained to do, right? You go through a little ceremony and somehow a mantra is picked for you, but it's meant to, I think it naturally then takes away your thoughts of other things. But I'm going to tie into what you just said before, and that is that all things can happen at the same time. So you're repeating the mantra just in your head. Obviously, you're not saying it out loud. Your eyes are closed, and and it's meant for 20 minutes, and you just let whatever happens comes. The thoughts come and go, and then you release them. But what also happens is, because there's no other thoughts except the ones that come and you release, the things that you need to hear that are underlying in your life, that because you're so busy and your mind is constant, you don't hear. So when you're doing a mantra that it becomes mindless because it's repetitive, the thoughts that you need to hear arise. And with that said, you can still hear them and let them go.
That's so interesting. And William, have you done much of the mantra meditation?
I have done some of the mantra meditation, but I am in full agreement with what Sue is saying in that I feel like it's your intuition coming out as well. It's almost like I'm picturing the brain, all the thoughts, you're sort of sweeping most of them out and you're leaving room in silence for the things to come up. But then the key with that, Sue, and you said it at the end, is, okay, acknowledge that and let it go. Don't go down the rabbit hole, because then you're kind of not meditating anymore. You're like focused on the task that you're going to do when you get up, right? So, but to me, it's intuition. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but that's what it feels like for me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think something really interesting that both of you guys have talked about is like letting this thought go, or the things that show up go. And that it's not about not thinking. It's about just having the thought and being like, oh, that's a thought. That's a thought. It's like this third party observer of the mind.
And what happens at the end of all of that, you're afraid you're not going to remember something that came up that you thought I really either want to do or should change,
Totally.
or it's there. It's just
Right.
there when you're done, without having to force it upon yourself.
And if it's not there immediately, it's going to come back up. Like you will remember at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But yeah, but it's what's one of the lines where if God or whatever you say, the universe is speaking to you first in whispers, and if you don't hear it or don't pay attention, it gets louder and louder and louder until something happens in your life that's like, whoa, okay, I hear you. I need to make a change, or I need to address this. Those things will come through during the process we just described.
Yeah.
Without the pain of it at the end.
Right. Yeah. We often say, pain is the body screaming, or the body whispers until we hear it. And it's really interesting because on this podcast, we talk a lot about the body changing the mind, right? We've done episodes on food and mood and gut health and cravings, and the vagus nerve as being the literal connection between the gut and the brain. But its communication goes mostly gut to brain rather than brain to gut. Meditation is the mind changing the body. It is, we see the physiological effects. We can talk about those in a minute, but it really is the mind changing the body. And breathing, by the way, is the most direct path to reducing stress. And as some say, breathing is the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because it takes you to focus on your breath instead of just breathing like we do all day. It just changes everything. You're probably going to explain physiological, but it takes away things we don't need because you have to focus on the breath.
It also gives you something to focus on during your practice. that is not a thought. It's not a mantra if you're not doing that type of meditation or for whatever reason that doesn't work for you. It's just sitting here thinking about it in this discussion. It's a very important part. It's that broom that's helping to sweep the thoughts out as well, right? Because you're focused on the breath, which is focused on the body, which is focused on yourself, right? It's all makes sense.
Yeah. And so William started to talk about the broom. So like we've done with each other, we've led like visualization exercises. I have found those to be really helpful. And therefore, by the way, guided meditation. If you are just getting started, I think the simplest, most approachable way is guided meditation. And actually, I'm even going to take a step back from that. I think movement meditation is more approachable, meaning I used to feel like my exercise was my meditation. That was how I cleared my mind, how I dealt with stress, how I did these things. And there is sort of like Qigong and some of these other that are actually movement meditations where it is sort of bridging movement and breath and putting all these things together, and yoga for some people. So that might be a super simple way in, or maybe you notice that your activity in a day helps you manage the stress. And then maybe it's time to, like Sue said, start with 2 minutes. And maybe it is the breathing or visualizing something or, using a song or an app to guide you. William, you've used some of the other interweb tools, right?
Well, my first stab at meditation, and let me just say a note before that, I had a goal of adding meditation to sort of my daily routine for literally years. Like, I would be working with a coach and what are the goals? And anyway, and so I'm one of those people that thinks a lot about doing something before I do it, which allowed for me, I think, I started, I can't remember which, it was one of those apps. It's one of those apps that just has like a little 6-minute thing. And that was my baby step into it. I had a good experience with that, but I found, it's almost like looking back, I found that it kind of wasn't enough, but it really prepped me for when I met Nandar, who is now our meditation coach. I was really ready because I had dipped my toe in it. So I think the point there is, however you start, whatever your introduction is, sort of go with it and then just know that maybe the app is fine for the first few weeks and then push yourself a little bit to graduate to, I think the biggest, graduate's the wrong word, but push yourself to expand it a little bit more to maybe more time, or maybe like finish the app and then sit in silence for a few minutes to sort of see how that feels, right? So whatever the entry drug is, I'm like kidding, right? But I hope everyone gets the joke. Whatever the portal is that brings you in, like that's your experience. And then just sort of, I think I wanted to gently push myself more and sort of, and that's how I found guided. If you find all of this intimidating, or better yet, if you have tried it and you're like, this doesn't work for me, just, try the guided, because I think that is like a good beginner's way to sort of push yourself and see what works for you. I have spoken with people who have tried guided and they're like, it's too many words. It's too distracting. Right.
Yeah. But it's really interesting what you said about, seeing what works for you and playing with it a little bit. And I think even in a guided, right, if you're sitting there listening to the thing and you keep thinking thoughts, the point is not to not think thoughts.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's not working or it's not for you. It's like probably an indication that you need it more than anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But just notice, that's interesting, and then focus back on whatever the words are of the guided thing or whatever. I remember when I was working in hedge funds before, this was probably, 2014, 2015, I created a playlist for myself that was sort of my, part of it was like songs that like inspired me and pumped me up. And part of it were songs that sort of helped me chill. Probably would have been smarter to make 2 different playlists, but I remember being on my way to work, listening to Aretha Franklin, Let It Be, and just trying to breathe and listen to the song. And like, even that, I realize now was a form of meditation. I didn't think of it as that then.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe that's a helpful piece to sort of hold on to.
Well, may I just make a statement that I don't think anyone said yet? There is no wrong way to meditate. Like that is really important to accept. There is no wrong way.
Totally.
And it's okay, as you described, to have different modalities and to change them as you need. And even Jen, you said it's kind of like you can have different forms in one sitting, right? You know, we've done with Nandar plenty of times where we've done the guided meditation and there's not all talking, but a lot, right? And we collectively felt it's too much talking right now. Like we know it's supposed to be guided, but can you guide us and get us into the deepness of the setting and then just let us be? Let it be quiet for 8 minutes and then we'll come back. And so, right, that's a nice blend of the two, of the silence. And then you're kind of able to practice all those different things that we spoke about, the mind, how it's working and how you don't have to control it and it'll all be okay. And what we've done is, of course, save the meditations that we've been trained with. And then on top of it, you find other meditation teachers out there that either their voice entices you. And it's all about, what do I feel today? Every time I decide what meditation am I doing today, it's about how I'm feeling and what I think will be most comfortable and or most effective. And some of that really is last night. I just sat, because a lot of times I meditate in the morning, but I didn't get a chance yesterday. And I'm like, I'm just feeling a little off. What do I need today? So part of this training makes our intuition, as William mentioned before, stronger. And then you can actually ask yourself, what do I feel like? So I just sat last night. I had shut my phone off and I was across the room. So I'm like, I'm just going to sit here, close my eyes, breathe, and let things happen. So you also learn that once we get a little more comfortable with some other teachers or things that we've experienced, that we do have it within ourselves to find the most comfortable way.
Yeah, throw some names out there for people because, you know, if you're searching the internet, and I know you guys have done more of that than I have.
I have one who is my go-to, Tara Brach, Brach. So much of it with those guided ones, because I've tried other ones, so much of it is the voice and the intonation. And I think it's like, I can go right into the zone with her and her voice. That may be different for you folks, but she's the one that pops into my head right away.
My first one way back when you said, William, you found different things, was Oprah, because she was working with Deepak. I don't even know if they're out there anymore, but she created this series that was like 21-day meditation, because the notion, or Jen, probably the science is that 21 days, if you do something, it's going to take. So she had 21-day meditation and it was guided, but her and then Deepak are the ones that I've done in the past.
Yeah. And there's the Calm app, there's the Headspace app, there's all of these things. And I once asked, you know, what's the difference, right, between doing what we did with working with somebody one-on-one, or like a lot of companies are doing, right, working with some of these live tools and using some of the apps and pre-recorded things. And we'll talk about brainwaves in a minute, but essentially your energy, your brainwaves are going to match that of the person leading or guiding the meditation. And so you may find that you progress past that teacher, and that's okay. It means it's time for us to find a new teacher. If you feel like you're not getting what you need from it, it might just be that it's time to find a new app, find a new person leading, the meditation, because you're going to match that energy. But there's something else too that you said about, like, okay, you normally meditate in the morning. Mm-hmm. I have had times where I'm meditating in the morning. I have times where I meditate before bed. I'm sort of all over the place. I also started with like 5 minutes of a body scan, and that was it. I was like, great, check the box. I'm on with my day. Right? How do each of you fit it into your routine? Because I think, like you said, there's no right way. There's no wrong way. It's just figuring out what might work. So what do you guys do? And maybe what did you do in the beginning to help it become part of your routine?
I can jump in first if that's okay. So when I first started my meditation practice, Jen and I share a lot of things in common. We're very type A, Virgo, like I was laughing when you said checked off the list, right? So I started with first thing in the morning. It was part of my morning routine. I did it when I first got up, before coffee, before anything. And that was it's like a great way to start your day. It's also so much better than grabbing your phone when you wake up, right? It's like, it's an intentional pause before you jump into the day and do all the things. But then as everything progresses and everything changes and schedules change and actually COVID broke my morning routine because I wasn't going to the gym at a certain time and I wasn't going to the office at a certain time. So it all got shook up. Where I am currently, and I love it, I do it at some point in the afternoon as a break. And the reason why I love it so much, and I have a lifestyle and a job where I have the capability of doing that. But what I love about it so much is when I come out of that meditation, and sometimes it's only 10 minutes, sometimes it's 20, whatever it is such a reset at like 1 or 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It also allows me to release whatever stress there was from leading up to that point. So currently, I am a huge fan of the afternoon meditation if you can somehow fit it into your schedule.
Thanks, William. I found that same thing to like set, it's something new you're doing, right? So let's pick a time that I'm going to do it. I'm type A as well. So I want to get it done. And I found that getting it done first thing is most important because we all know, oh, I'm just going to go get a cup of coffee and then I'll come. And then you're in the kitchen and then you're cleaning dishes. Like no, do it now. Right. And then also
we laugh because we know.
Right.
we deeply identify.
Later,
right.
20 minutes later, where am I? What was I doing?
Exactly. Right. And same thing with the phone. Don't touch your phone, boy, because that rabbit hole, we all know that one. But also as time went on, my husband was curious, what's going on here? Like, what are you doing? So for me, initially, it was my thing. It was personal. It's if my change is going to come, it was my decision. But then he was interested. So I was like, all right, we're going to wake up. Let's just get the meditation done. And then you start your day. But I have found same thing over time. It's like, all right, now, did I get a chance in the morning? Sometimes that doesn't happen. And at night, sometimes it was, I made sure I got it done in the morning and I kind of felt I needed a shift. So that was great you brought that up, William, that, oh, now I need my afternoon reset. Some people say it's a nap, others meditation, and then do I need it before I go to sleep? Am I finding that I'm restless? Instead of being frustrated, I can't fall asleep. What's going on? Meditation for me, it'll take me right down to comfortable sleep as well. If you don't mind, I want to bring up something else too that you were talking about different coaches and all of that. When I was starting meditation, I had a business coach for years. And I actually realized that because you get nervous, oh my gosh, should I let go of this business coach? Is the focus of meditation? How can that be, as type A as I am, give me my list, give me my focus. I let go of my business coach once I started meditation coaching. And I just thought I'd say that out loud to anyone who is in business or has their own, or even is running a family and has had that kind of support. You'll decide what works for you. Sometimes overlapping slightly is what made me really see that. But the power of meditation, that it took over my need for a business coach, I thought was very powerful and I wanted to share.
Sue, can I jump in there? Because I had a very similar experience. Would you agree with this statement? Because this was my experience. I needed the business coach to get me to getting the most out of the meditation coach as it applied to my business. So it was part of the path. And mine actually started with talk therapy first, because that was the first time that I was able to step outside and be somewhat objective about me and my things and all, right? And then that graduated to business coach, and that graduated to where I currently am with meditation coach. So I sort of needed that as a step. Right? I don't know. I see head shaking.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Mine started with, there was a program that Franklin Covey did. Did any of you guys remember the Franklin Planner?
Yes,
of course.
Okay, so that was like, for us type A, man, that was such a tool. Loved it, went to a training program at the corporation I was at. And so they had a coaching program. So that might be what you're talking about, William, kind of like the talk coaching. So I fed into that and there was tools and things. So yes, there's a progression. There's all these things out there. And I moved from that to a personal coach. And it started out personal and it became business. Everything leads you to the next, right? Whether you start with meditation and you change the modalities within that. But yeah, there's lessons and everything.
Well, this is sort of the perfect transition to exactly what we want to talk about, right? Which is meditation for stress, meditation for the rest of our lives. And I think for most people, a big part of stress is work, right? And
absolutely
everything else we have to do in life. So I want to switch into that after a quick message from our partner for this episode. So big thanks to The Savvy Elephant for supporting Salad with a Side of Fries in honor of Earth Month, helping you create a happy, healthy home.
The Savvy Elephant helps you create a healthy, happy home by guiding you towards natural, organic, and handcrafted home furnishings with exceptional quality others will notice. Home furnishings can be filled with chemicals that can affect your sleep, allergies, mood, and overall health. Created and curated by interior designers who have done the research for you, the Savvy Elephant guides you to better, healthier choices by providing vetted products that'll make you feel good. Take control of your home and your health. Shop the Savvy Elephant and live better. So we've talked about toxins before on Salad with a Side of Fries. Many of the goods in your home contribute significantly to the body's toxic burden. Maybe you don't realize the mattress, right? Your mattress, the filling in your couch, both can off-gas. Chemicals and dyes in fabrics, even your candles. So I told you guys before, the Sonari candle that I got from the Savvy Elephant is 100% organic, from the wax to the scents. And each purchase of the Sonari candles gives back to breast cancer research. And then I also told you guys about the fabric napkins. So it's the stonewash hemmed edged linen napkins from the company is called Creative Women. They are fair trade certified. They work with over 1,400 women in 9 countries, preserving their artistic heritage. So this just gives you an example of the range from the Savvy Elephant. I love it. Not only can you find whatever matches your style, but you can feel good and sleep easy knowing that they are clean and contributing to total well-being. So be a savvy shopper and get 10% off for being a Salad with a Side of Fries listener. Go to thesavvyelephant.com, TheSavvyElephant.com. Use code SALAD at checkout for 10% off your order. So shop around, select, order with code SALAD, and ship to create a happier, healthier you. That's thesavvyelephant.com. Your friends will notice and the planet will thank you. Okay. So we were talking about work and meditation and how meditation coaching replaced business coaching to some degree. So I think I was saying too, work can cause us a lot of stress. I guess maybe setting the stage a little bit, what else causes you guys stress?
Family,
relationship,
daughters.
right?
Yeah. Right. But like through the meditation, and that's what you're leaning to, right? I'm able to hear the thoughts that are not serving me or others, hear the pressure that I put on myself, the controlling nature that I had. All of these things like came to light and like they pretty much slap you in the face and are like, that's not serving you. It's not serving those around you. And it's certainly feeding your stress and not creating what you need.
Yeah.
I think it also teaches you to focus on, like, we as human beings, we torture ourselves on a daily basis with the stories we create in our head. Right. So Jenn's like, yes.
This is like so spot on and exactly what I was wanting. Like, we are a mind meld in this moment because that's what I wanted to say too. So keep going. I'll say something after.
So talking about creating stories in our head. So let's say you have an interaction with a client or a family member and the interaction ends, but you walk away with that, having created a story in your head, and you can carry that around. Oftentimes it's negative. Most times it's negative. You carry that around and it weighs on you. And one of the things that I've learned in the practice, and I am borrowing this from Eckhart Tolle, who tells the wonderful story of 2 ducks that meet each other in a pond, one feeling a little bit territorial, right? And so the 2 ducks have this thing like, get out of my pond, right? Right. And then the ducks move on and they literally flap their wings and shake it off. Those ducks don't think about that after that fact. Mm-hmm. Human beings carry that stuff with us. And that's what I mean by creating the stories. We torture ourselves.
Yeah. It's the nature of the mind. We're not going to stop our mind from creating the stories. It is what the mind does. So it's really just taking a moment to recognize that most of our thoughts are not facts. And most of the things that we're ruminating on or continuing to repeat to ourselves are actually made up.
Yep.
But our thoughts do create our reality. And so to support our meditation and protect ourselves and those around us, it's important to hear what we think and then shift it, right? We could think something negative and that's the vibe, that's the energy that goes out. You don't even have to be sitting next to a person that you're thinking about for them to feel it. And so in that, we can create our own negative reality. So the sooner that we realize it and can shift our thoughts, Doesn't mean the negative thoughts are going to come back and back, but to recognize, make the adjustment, and to move forward helps to feed the positive nature that we really want for ourselves and to reduce that stress that's continuous sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, a few things. So the first piece is we started with, well, what causes us stress, right? So recognizing that we have stress and what is stressing us out can be really helpful because, as Sue was saying before, what do I need today? That's what's going to guide us to what do I need today, right? So this is really interesting. In some of the research, people have very different awareness levels of their stress. So older people, like 65 and over, tend to have less stress because their perspective is different. They've been through more, they've seen more. So the things they experience are sort of, it's like a drop of water in an ocean versus, a fish tank. Younger people, and now what they're seeing too is that younger and younger people have more and more stress. So that's a piece of it. If you're not sure, oftentimes it's because we're a little disconnected. So just take a second and notice, like, where do you even feel tension in your body? Are your hands in fists? Are you sitting in a potentially sort of awkward position that's not actually all that comfortable, but it's how you're sitting? We can notice some of those things. And then, so mindfulness or meditation, whatever you want to talk about it, influences two stress pathways in the brain. One alters our brain structure, right? And activity in regions that are regulating attention and emotion, like you were just talking about, right? So we're able to have attention and emotion, those are the two pathways, intercepted and adjusted. Literally, structure and function in the brain changes when we breathe, when we think, right? This meditation and breathing in particular, right? It's regulating our nervous system, right? We think fight or flight. We've talked about this a million times. You guys can go back to our episode, The Mess of Stress, where we went through everything that happens in the body physiologically when we're stressed. Breathing is a chemical signal to the body that the stressor has passed, that it can calm down. So, right, if we were running, that breath is shallow and in the chest, right? If somebody walked in the room and scared you and you gasped, right? That's really shallow and in the chest. So deep breathing in the diaphragm is non-stress. That is signaling to the body that it is safe. And so we can really, through meditation and breathing and attention and focusing our mind, right, on something other than that hamster wheel sometimes, it's actually regulating involuntary physiological functions like heart rate and blood pressure and digestion and all these other things. So, there's tons of research around anxiety and depression and all of the, mental emotional challenges that I think a lot of people face. But for most of us on a daily basis, we don't necessarily sit there and go, oh, I'm depressed. For most of us, it's just, I'm really stressed out. I got a lot going on. I can't focus. I know for me, like if I can, like you, William, with the midday meditation, it is complete refocus.
Yeah, because you are. Otherwise, like you explained, you're sitting at your desk. You don't realize that your shoulders are up to your ears and your back is tense and you can't accomplish one task and just move on. It seems like they're all in your head at once. And you're right. Just take a step back at any moment.
And this is all heightened currently because of technology. We all have a phone. We're being bombarded with media. The apps that we use on the phone are specifically designed to keep us in there where time is lost, all of that. I feel like that's one of the reasons why there are more and more people who are intrigued with sort of checking out, turning off, whatever. And,
Totally.
and meditation is a way of doing that, right? It's like, and the headline is, we need it now more than ever, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting because sometimes I feel like I could also hear somebody listening to this conversation then getting stressed out about their stress too. Right.
Something else to do. Yeah.
Right. One of the pieces, even Sue, that you were saying with noticing our thoughts or reframing it, we can reframe the experience of stress as positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our body is ready. The body is priming us to handle whatever is coming at us. We can do this, right? this is serving a purpose. I'm aware, and you can relax because I got this now, right? We can have sort of that conversation with the stress response. Because if we recognize that our thoughts aren't real and all of this is really just the nature of the mind, it is doing its job to communicate to us, right, that something's happening or that it's preparing for something. And then we can sort of, take that and run with it. Another really interesting thing I've noticed for me, when I am super stressed, the creativity doesn't happen, right? And, as much as this show is very sciencey sometimes, right? It's creativity. It's coming up with the ideas and content creation, right? Even if you're just doing your own social media, it's content creation and creativity. And funny enough, this came up in my last session with Nandar, so I'll share it with you guys. We were talking about brainwaves. So beta brainwaves is stress. And that's sort of like the frequency is very high. Okay, so beta is most of our activities, it's 13 to 30 hertz, which means nothing to any of us. Then alpha brainwaves is creativity. And that can often be created through movement. So I noticed, especially during the pandemic, taking long walks by the water, that I had all of these ideas. So that's sort of alpha brainwaves. Theta brainwaves is meditation. It's like a deep dream state, maybe even like a light sleep. This is also part of REM sleep. So it's why we can do a short meditation, get into these brainwaves, and feel refreshed as if we slept. Theta is the realm of the subconscious. So we talked about, right, bridging that gap and tuning into those other ideas and thoughts and intuition. And then it's also, theta is hypnosis. So if people have wondered about hypnosis, by the way, I've tried to find a hypnotist who we could talk to on the show, and it is really hard. I've interviewed a few before and I'm like, I don't think we're a fit. So anyway, but hypnosis is theta brainwaves. Then delta is when you are totally awake, totally in touch with all of your senses. And this is what happens actually, guys, when we're leading meditation. This is when, if you've ever done a past life regression, that's delta brainwaves. They are slower, they are longer. Delta brainwaves are also part of deep restorative sleep. So again, it's why this whole progression of meditation or movement meditation impacts the brain and impacts, therefore, then our experience and what happens after it. We're literally changing the biochemistry of the brain.
I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I also just want to say, you referenced sleep in there a few times.
Yeah.
There are times when I am meditating where I almost feel like I'm dozing off and I don't fight it. I perceive that as I'm going into a different state of meditation. And I don't judge myself if maybe I have nodded off. Who cares? Right? I mean,
right.
So I wanted to throw that out there because I think that's I'm hoping that one of the takeaways for listeners of this, if they're intimidated by meditation or they tried it, it doesn't work, or I fall asleep every time, back to there is no wrong way. And if you may or may not doze off, nobody cares. No one's going to judge you. It's part of your meditation practice and it's okay.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting too. There was some research. This was more mindfulness than, quote unquote meditation, but they worked with pregnant women and then they followed those kids for 10 years. Multi-generational impact on health and well-being.
That's incredible.
From the mindfulness.
Yeah, that's cool.
There was other research. A body scan can reduce cravings. So if you're in the height of a craving, right, and you're like, this is wild, see if you could sit there for, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, and do a quick body scan. And a body scan, by the way, you can start at your head or your toes and just note each, part of your body, each joint, your bones, right? Relaxing them is really the focus. So there are some body scans where you clench them and then relax them. And you sort of try to do that with each body part. There are others where you're just sort of, going through and relaxing each part of the body. See what happens. I'm not sure in the research if that was like over time or just in the moment. But either way, what an awesome additional tool to sort of have in your tool belt.
Either way, you're
Jen,
directing your focus, like we said.
Exactly.
I have a question, Jen. In that using a tool as a body scan is one of the purposes to be like, am I really hungry? Do I really want, I mean, is that?
No. I mean, sometimes that happens. That's a different form of intervention or mindfulness in, what we would call intuitive eating, is to do that check-in. But that check-in in that process is much more about directly to the stomach than a body scan of, I think, to me, the body scan is much more about complete redirect of attention and creating some space between we talked about this in another episode, the space between the action and the reaction, or the instinct and the reaction, or, the stress and the coping.
It's almost like take a breath.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like if you told me you can't have toast for the next week, I'm going to go nuts because I could easily have gone a whole month without toast, but because you said you can't.
Sue, that is such a funny thing to cut out. Toast is not what I would go to. But
whatever, I don't know. What, chocolate? All right, let's go for it. Ice cream. So, but the thought is it's kind of that, right? Like you need to redirect your thought because I wouldn't have thought about ice cream for 2 weeks unless you said I can't have it. And to me, whenever I was trying to lose weight, that was the thing. Tell me I can't, and it makes it harder. So this redirection, I don't know, maybe I went down a rabbit hole.
It's the shift. No, you're exactly right.
It's
totally. It's the shift in awareness. Okay. It's the shift of what we're focusing on, because what we focus on expands, right? Are we focusing on that ruminating thought, the story we're telling ourselves of the conversation that happened or didn't happen? Or are we bringing ourselves back to the present moment and just, clear mind onward? Mm-hmm. So a few fun facts that I found on the interwebs, thanks to disturbmenot.co. Are you ready?
Here we go.
It's estimated that 200 to 500 million people meditate worldwide. Over 14% of Americans have meditated at least once. I don't know if that's high or low compared to what I would have expected, but whatever. Meditation improves anxiety levels 60% of the time. That's not bad odds.
No. Yeah, that's good.
Incredible.
Meditation can reduce the risk of being hospitalized for coronary disease by 87%.
Whoa.
Wow.
Right? Heart disease. Number one cause of heart disease is stress. By the way, number one cause of stress is money. Meditation can reduce the wake time of people with insomnia by 50%. I mean, that's dramatic. So I also, by the way, at times meditate right before bed. It helps me sort of put everything from the day aside. And most of the time I'm asleep before the guided part ends.
Totally. Agreed.
66% of US Buddhists meditate at least once a week. So that's interesting because we often think of it as a daily practice, but also there's no right way or wrong way. Just do it when you notice it, like when you think about it.
Yeah.
Right?
When you feel like you need it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, but these stats are showing that even the once a week makes a big difference.
Right. Almost 10 times more children used meditation in 2017 than they did in 2012. And that's also pre-pandemic.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. But I know somebody who does a meditation podcast for kids, and it's bilingual. So she does it in English and then she does it in Spanish, like all the meditations. Okay, 52% of employers provided mindfulness classes or training to their employees in 2018. Again, before the pandemic. Meditation can increase employees' productivity by 120%. School suspensions were reduced by 45% thanks to meditation.
That's amazing. There's actually one school, I know you're going through your stats, but I wish I could remember the name of the school that actually, it was in Chicago or somewhere where they really needed a shift for the kids. And that's what did it.
It's awesome.
They meditated with them every day.
Yeah. And I see it a lot in schools, even teaching kids, whether it's a movement break or just a quiet break or things like that. It's shifting our state, right? That's the biggest thing, and shifting our attention and our focus. And I think
There is something to be said, though, I think, when you have a regular meditation practice, it almost moves the benchmark of that which stresses us out or creates chaos. Because I think sometimes we can adopt some of that awareness of our own thoughts and the nature of the mind into our everyday running around. And so we can hear the thought and go, that's funny, and onward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like breaking a pattern too.
Yeah.
Whether it's in your brain or I'm just thinking about, the kids and having them take a break. It is a tool that you practice and you sharpen your skills with. And as it evolves, you can apply it to more things in your life.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that I have found that because we've been through all this and the training, now I see in other people their stress level, and that it's really not as necessary as the reality is for the people and the feels for these people in their life. So if nothing else, I can take a moment for others as well when I see it, because that's not the moment to say, oh, you could do it. No, they don't want to hear it at the time, but I can send the love or the thoughts for them to calm them down too.
It's also not the moment to judge, right? I mean, that's important to say.
Right. Yeah. Right. Of course. It's just that we feel the compassion of the pain that they're in and the want to help undo it. But silence and our positive thoughts can help with that change as well.
And in that regard too, I mean, I've had times where I have to sit there and go, I'm feeling this anxiousness or whatever it is, but I don't know what it's about. And then I have to sit there and go, is this mine or someone else's? Right? Am I picking up what's happening around me, or is this actually mine? So let's wrap this up. I feel like I just dropped a bomb and then was like, and then food for thought.
Keep them wanting more, Jen. Always keep them wanting more.
All right. So wrapping this up, what would each of you say is the biggest difference in your life, in your stress or whatever, as a result of adding meditation into your routine?
I think it's a lot of what we've spoken about. I feel like I have a tool now to help me, manage stress, tap into my intuition, basically all the things that we've spoken about. And something that hasn't been articulated that I want to throw out there too, it's by doing it, and I do it every day, and I love that we talk about it. It's okay if it's every other day. It's okay if it's once a week. It's whatever your practice is, your practice, and it's all good. But it's the type of thing where doing it every day, you're chipping away and you don't realize how much you're achieving or how much you're changing or growing or evolving, whatever word you want to put to it, until you stop and you look back and say, oh, wow, I am a very different person than I was even a year ago, but much less back to when I started meditating. So it's one of those like little nuances are happening daily. And I think that's important to say, because I think that's what helps keep you going into your practice, right? Yeah. Don't give up on it. Like, you're not going to change it a week. That's okay. It's all good, right? So I hope that answered your question, Jen.
Yeah, for sure. Sue, what about for you? Biggest difference to wrap it up?
For me, the biggest difference is I don't overthink anymore, or I catch myself quicker. I can shift that change. But most importantly was my family around me. They noticed a change before I did. And that turned their curiosity up about meditation for themselves. Yeah.
I love that.
Those are the two biggest things.
Well, it's like everything we talk about, right? By making the shifts ourselves, other people inherently, like, we don't have to go out and seek and to, influence other people. It's going to happen just by being who we are and doing the things for ourselves. I think for me, it's certainly been, three things are popping into my head and they're not a coherent sentence. So I'm just going to say the three things. So one is like shifting from judgment to observation in all the things of myself, my thoughts, everything. I think another piece is being comfortable with uncertainty. I would have said, I still sometimes say, like, I'm not good with loose ends. And I'm much more comfortable now with not knowing what's next, or not knowing the answers, or not knowing all of the things that I think is often so much of what we can end up ruminating on or rehashing in our mind or playing out. And that creates a lot of stress. And then I think ultimately meditation is just one more way
of working with my body rather than against it. Because, right, if we think of the body controlling the mind and now the mind controlling the body, it's bringing everything together. It's not fighting the thoughts. It's, I got you. We can slow that down. We're good, and sort of working through that.
I love number 3 that you just summarized the whole conversation. Good job, Jen.
That's why I do what I do.
Mic drop.
All right. So that brings us, we'll wrap up. So our nutrition nugget this week, on Friday, we're going to talk about salad dressing. So is it really that bad for us? As I often say, we didn't get here because of the salad dressing. At the same time, right, it seems to be one of the first things that people remove when they start focusing on their health. Does it really make a difference? Right? Definitely come back for this one. Maybe you have thought about making them yourself, but you're not sure if it's worth it. So that nutrition nugget about salad dressing will be live on Friday. By the way, hit the plus sign or the follow button in your app, and then the app will remind you that it's there. Well, as always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I am at Jenn Trepeck, JENN TREPECK. Website is A Salad with a Side of Fries. Wherever is easy for you, send a message. I want to hear your takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Of course, if you are not already, become a member by going to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. This shows your support for this podcast, this community, and your health. You'll get this week's recipe for the tuna niçoise salad. So Sue and William, thank you again for being here. I just appreciate you both so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. It was my pleasure.
Absolutely. Until next week, everybody, remember, life brings us stress. I'd venture to say it's unavoidable. And how we manage it, though, is very much in our power. And perhaps meditation, or your version of meditation, is a new tool in your tool belt.
Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.